Hello everyone, it's Blockchain Noob. Today we have interview with Kacper from GetLine Network. Hello Kacper.
Hi there, I'm Kacper.
It's good to have you today. And today we will talk about the GetLine Network. It is the centralized platform for lending. Can you tell us more about the main goal of the project?
Yeah, you see that, you know that Nick Szabo in 1997 created a concept of smart contract, and that it was 20 years ago. And the idea was to, for example, create a loan for a car. So a car will be blocked digitally if the borrower will be not paying his debt.
Yeah.
And that's the actually its basic use case for Ethereum. It's so obvious that one can create such thing, but actually building the viable network of peer-to-peer lending is not that easy as just writing the one piece of Solidity code.
Yeah, that's true. And when I'm looking at like ICO alert, like I see like dozens of lending platforms.
Yeah, I've put a lot of money and a lot of time into research and development and question how to create a platform that will be decentralized, and that's one design goal. And on the other hand, it should make sense, because some platforms, and I've seen this trend recently, that there is a centralized entity that is generating the token and is using this token as a medium of exchange, or like using it for selling the memberships like Salt lending or so on. But actually it's not helping in decentralization. It's without this entity, the whole token of value will collapse, because
that's true.
So what I'm always looking for the project like 0x, in which they deployed the smart contract and created the JavaScript libraries, so people can create their own relayers on that. And it's I think this model works better than the competition, and I think that competition is working usually like they are not creating decentralized application, they are just creating centralized lending site, and with specific token.
Earn money during the ICO, more or less.
Yeah, micro money, and see that's micro money. I think it's quite a working company there in Asia and so on. But what people need to realize that it's sometimes the token price can be not coupled with the success of the project, because as I tweeted to the one of the guy behind Slug, that not only scams token will go to zero, but the tokens with the proper economical model. I mean that if token have no utility except means of payment, and the velocity of money in such system will be just increasing, you have still nice project, but without anything like seeing or burning the token, the supply and the demand will be not in perfect match, and so the only value will be in speculative trading. And many people will realize this and switch from the altcoins to the Bitcoin, because Bitcoin have much powerful base fundamentals.
I'm not sure about this motivation, because from my perspective, many people have no idea about the token economics, and I think that many people move back to Bitcoin because we have folks on Bitcoin, and they will like with free money for them. So I think this is the biggest motivation for them. But let's focus on your project. Right. So how this platform will work? Who is lending money to whom, and how it works?
And so this platform will allow any borrower to fill an application with the scoring provider, or right now in our demo directly on the GetLine website, and borrower will be actually deploying the smart contract. And then anybody from the world will be able to invest in such loan. And that's the easy part, I would say. The hard part is actually making that if you invest $100, you will get at least $100 back, because in anonymous peer-to-peer lending, it cannot work, because people can just hide, and if you send like $1 to the guy in, for example, Indonesia, and you cannot go to Indonesia to talk to
get money back. Yeah.
Get money back. And so I realized, okay, so we have a large number of people that don't have credit score, and they're unbanked. They have no reputation whatsoever, I mean, in traditional banking. So they are not getting the loan from the bank, and but they may still have some revenue. And so I realized that two things are necessary for working peer-to-peer lending in the blockchain space. The one is the some kind of identity verification. So that's why the Boson project is doing exactly that. EAP 725 Ethereum standard for Ethereum for the identity and claims, and aggregating those claims about identity. And on the other hand, we have a way to actually use your identity, use your reputation to get microloan. And if you don't have if you don't have credit score, you can still be eligible for the loan, but only if you buy enough collateral in form of GetLine tokens. And I see it's...
What do you mean by enough? Okay, for example, then I need some money to buy your tokens, and you have enough value of these tokens, then you can give me so it's like 10% of the loan or bigger value?
I will explain it to you. You can, right in the next week, we'll create a demo, and you will see that anybody can create a loan with the link. And it will be, I think, quite revolutionary, because it's not widely deployed. I've seen that many projects are working on this, but they are creating not functional demos. This, what we'll create will be fully functional, so you can be able to send a link.
It will be next week, right?
Next week, yes.
Okay, that's nice.
That's why we are postponing the ICO after we deploy the working product on mainnet, because I believe that creating an ICO before you have a working product, and I've seen many projects that don't have any decentralized application in their GitHub account. They only have a token sale contract, and that's all. And I think it's not
nice
sustainable.
Website, PDF for paper.
Yeah, exactly.
And so one nice faces on the website, yeah.
And so the token utility will be like, nobody is. If you have like 10 friends that will be able to give you money because they trust you, you don't have any additional verification, any additional reputation, nothing. Because if you know people that are willing to invest in your loan, then you are settled, and you don't need to pay any fee to anybody. And I think that's the main value proposition of the GetLine network. That it's zero fee lending, and you cannot compete with the only fee you will pay is gas. And if assuming that for the loans, I like starting from $100. The gas price will be like 0.60 cents for deposit and withdrawal. So it's it's less than 1% fees in gas for the even very small transactions. But what I'm exactly looking for is, for example, you have million people that want to get into Ethereum, but they don't have a way to acquire Bitcoins even. They just have internet, and you don't need to buy Bitcoins to start playing with the Ethereum decentralized applications. So what I'm looking for is the use case. For example, you have some example decentralized application that will require you to have like $3 for the gas. Or for example, you want to create your own token, and you know that for creating your own token, you will need to pay like $5 in gas. But if you don't have any Ethereum at all, it may be hard for unbanked people to get this initial coin.
It's hard to get to start.
Exactly, and what I'm assuming that the boson will cooperate with the GetLine. So if you have identity on Facebook, you can get loan for like $10 or like $20, and I think that repayments on such small loans will be quite high because there is very low incentive to default on small loan, and especially if you are backing this loan with the collateral. And another thing that I'm looking for is allowing people to prove their reputational by burning tokens. And I've seen this issue in Bitcoin tag, and there's a reputational system with the number of stars there. And the more stars you have, the more reputable are, and the number of posts is counting. And I've seen that because reputational in the semi-anonymous world is so valuable that some people are actually trading the trading those accounts, and it means that there is a market for reputation. And so I believe that this project is linking the reputational identity and ability to give credit to anybody. And it's experimental in this fact because I was doing this peer-to-peer lending since 2014, and the project was into many versions, and I realized that okay, it cannot work without proper credit scoring, without collection on debts, and without some kind of a legal structure around this. So actually, GetLine is not focusing on the customers directly, although it will have an option for the customers like 0x project did, that the direct exchange. If instead
so you want to be something like the protocol for lending? So
I
can create the user interface for that.
Exactly. You can create your user interface for lending. You don't have to use GetLine website, but the only requirement is that fees for the scoring provider and fees in form of collateral have to be in Get tokens. And I did an analysis on that, and I found out it may be enough to provide utility value of the token. So the token will be not 100% speculation if people will be actually using this for lending. And since I will be showing demo before starting the ICO, the utility of the network will be given 1 month before the ICO will start.
Okay, I have a next question about the market and customers. So you target for the countries where there are a lot of unbanking people, so like Southeast Asia or Africa. You don't target to Western countries.
On one hand, I would like to target people that creates something like Uber for banking. I mean that with, for example, mobile app. Giving you ability to create a loan request for the small value. So I'm not targeting the countries per se, but I'm rather targeting the very young people that are not trusting banks too much, and they are willing to try new solutions. So I know some people that are holding Bitcoins, Ethereum, and they don't have credit card, but it may replace credit cards for them. So what I'm targeting is actually replacement of credit card for people.
Okay, and if you're looking for the perspective of the end user, the lending is in Ether, or I will receive like dollars or euros or any other currency?
Right now, you can. Right now, you have ability to borrow in any token. So if somebody will provide a stable token, you can use stable token for lending.
You mean any Ethereum ERC20 token or any token?
Yeah. You can borrow any ERC20 token, any.
Okay.
So I'm believing the creation of stable token is out of my scope because I know that many projects are working on this, and creating a stable token is a project on its own. And I think that I learned that if you're not limiting the project scope, you're heading to failure, because it's better to deliver the one solution that is working great.
Yeah, you have to focus on something and not on the entire market.
Laser focus on providing peer-to-peer lending in Ethereum, any ERC20 token, and allowing people to. I think the most interesting part of the Boson and the GetLine lending will be if you join the Boson system, you will get some free GetLine tokens. And I think it's most attractive for people because if you have enough money, you can create a decentralized application, but you actually need to distribute it to the people. And that's the hard part, because without you have feature is ad ledger here, but it's not evenly distributed. That's the famous quote. And so I see ICO as a way to distribute the technology to thousands and millions of people.
Okay, so this answer follows me the question about the token and ICO rules. But before that, I would like to encourage our audience. If you have any questions, you can just write them on chat, and we'll go back to them at the end of our interview. So let's focus on the token sale. You mentioned you want to use token sale as a tool for the spread distribution of tokens.
Exactly.
So I think there will be some kind of a limit how many tokens can be bought by one person.
We were thinking about two solutions. For example, one ICO that I liked very much was 0x, when there was a limit of how much token you can buy per one person, and another was Polkadot. You know Polkadot?
I know the project, but I don't know the rules of ICO.
Okay, so the rules of ICO was it was similar to Gnosis. So it's like Dutch auction.
I don't like the Gnosis pattern.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But so they created a second price Dutch auction. It's little complicated, but the rules are everybody pays the same price, and the cap is actually decreasing. So people are sending money to the smart contract, and the effective price for the tokens will be. So the ICO valuation will be realistically evaluated by the market and not by the creators, because many projects are. I don't like projects with no cap, because if, for example, like Tezos or EOS, too much money is flowing into and nobody is buying tokens from the secondary market, and so investors are actually unhappy. But on the other hand, if you create too low cap, you can actually create a project with, and the proceedings from the sale may be not enough to cover the at least few years of operation before the network will be fully operational, because it's long-term project in terms of you cannot create a decentralized lending on the multiple countries in like few months. It's a multi-year project.
Process, yeah.
But so the most important thing is not to screw up with the token valuation, because if I will create too low or too high cap, it may hurt the project. So what we're considering is $3 million of cap, minimal cap, and so and maximal cap like $20 million. That's right.
Okay, sounds good. Not too low, not too high. Yeah, for me, the first slide, it sounds quite good. Can you tell us something more about the token distribution?
The half of the tokens will be sold on the distribution, and I think that many projects are saying that the more tokens you're selling to the world is better. For example, Golem, which sold like 80 or 90% of its tokens, and I think it's not optimal because you have a company or foundation that will need to have incentive to work for the tokens, because if the company is having a very small stake in tokens, and a lot of money, then there is no incentive to work hard on the tokens. So the GetLine company will retain 20% of the tokens for the purpose of employee option stock, employees working for the GetLine in investing schedule and so on.
Okay, what about the rest, 30%?
It's for our advisors and for the pre-ICO. It's I will publish soon how it's exactly working, and it's described in white paper. You can go to the GetLine in and you can see the numbers. So what we are doing, and we have 8% of tokens for the pre-ICO, and we think that because the marketing cost for the ICOs is increasing, so even if you have a great project, you will still need to throw capital, because every marketing agency, every paid ads, every way to actually tell people about these projects are getting more expensive, since more and more capital is thrown into the ICO market, and I think it's wise to raise a reasonable amount of money in pre-ICO to increase the chance of successful funding. And another thing that I think that will make this ICO succeed is a bounty program. And so by allowing people to be verified with boson.me and with I think that's unique technology, because it allows you to log in with the MetaMask. So you have MetaMask is like 250,000 of people and users, and it will be soon the biggest social network in the Ethereum, because if you have private key, you can create your identity with that. You don't need a company that will be certifying for you. You can collect multiple claims from multiple websites, and I'm suggesting anybody to go to the boson.me and log in with the MetaMask. I think it's actually awesome technology that will change the world, because it's like logging with the Facebook without the Facebook. So what we are doing is like twofold. The KYC verification process is increasing the number of potential customers. So we want to have people investing in the ICO that will be the same people using the ICO, because some projects have the problem of having one group of speculators and one group of users, and those groups do not intersect sometimes, and it's not good for projects and not good for the community or investors. And another thing that I'm proud to say that is we're working with some, we are negotiating with some scoring providers like Friendly Score, and we'll be implementing the Creditech technology Kontomierz for the screen scraping and for getting the loan banking information. So I think that's the only way to succeed in this crazy blockchain world, is to start small and provide more than you, how to say that, it's under promise and over deliver. And so I'm promising the delivery of the very small use case MVP, then there will be massive bounty for the registration and for the creation of user base, and then ICO that will be priced in a way that will be fair for any participant.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. I have next question. You already talked a little about the token. Can you sum up how the token will be in use in GetLine?
Okay, so token will have 2 use because in this demo there will be no fees whatsoever because nobody will be verifying anybody. But if you want to be verified by the scoring agency, you will need to pay some money for the scoring agency, and you will need to pay this in get tokens. So if you want to get a loan, you will need to buy some like small amount of tokens. For example, it's usually in the range of like $5 for verification, because the scoring agency needs to do some kind of background checks, API calls that are costly, and that's one utility of the tokens, paying for the scoring itself. And another utility is that if you have bad scoring or you have no credit history, you can put your tokens as a collateral. So immediately after the ICO, you can get your money back by actually lending Ethereum, putting your get tokens as a collateral, and checking how it works. Because what I would be liking to see is seeing that people, instead of just speculating on the token, they will be trying the technology and providing feedback. Because
my question is about the speculation, because of course people will try to speculate on your token, so the value of the token will change in the time. So if you make this collateral at the beginning and then the value of the token is changing a lot, like say it's 100% more expensive, then I can get some of this token back, or they are all the time fixed?
Yeah, that's if you for example borrow $100 and you put $100 in collateral, and then collateral increased to $1,000, you actually earning money from the borrowing.
Okay.
So in some form, it's actually very similar to the long option on the tokens. It's if you borrow against the collateral in the get tokens, you can speculate using twofold leverage. So there is solution for speculators as well. But if projects will be just speculation, then no utility will be provided. But so utility for me is provided because the system allows for reducing the fees, reducing the price difference for the lenders and borrowers, because usually platforms are taking like 2% fee or 3% fee, and what we are offering is at least 10 times improvement over that, because only fees you will be paying is the very, very small fee for the scoring agency and the gas prices for Ethereum. So it will be just outcompeting the traditional peer-to-peer lending sites on the price.
Okay, and you mentioned that you will have MVP like next week,
yes.
ICO in December. So why you need this money and how you will spend this money you get on?
Because right now I've hired some developers that are ex-Google employees and ex-Microsoft employees, and those are expensive. I have to tell you.
They are for sure.
And I think that creating a financial product, it's not something that you can give to the students with no experience that will code something in PHP and it will barely work.
It's about money, so it's quite sensitive, and it's also smart contract, so it's like
so the money. So the money is mostly for the development of very high quality infrastructure. And another thing that we'll be focusing is providing subsidies for the scoring agencies and some grants. So if somebody would like to, for example, create a hackathon for the machine learning scoring algorithm on available credit data, then we will need to participate in that, and that's part of marketing and evangelization. And another thing is legal, because we will be starting in Poland, because and we will need in multiple countries payment gateways like InPay, because many people don't care about the Ethereum, they just want to get a loan. So we will need to somehow work this out so they can get money and not Ethereum, but still having the advantages of using Ethereum smart contracts. And so we have legal battle. So we are preparing for the legal battles. So if the main case is that the main question is, will the loan contract that is on smart contract will be held in court? That's the and so it's like, will the Polish court or German court or any court in the world accept smart contract as the legal contract? And so to convince them it's legal contract, we'll need to be sure that a person signing the contract is signing the contract with something like e-identity, and some countries are implementing this, and we have mObywatel in Poland and digital card in Estonia, and I think it's a way in good a change in good direction. So people can sign documents using their digital identity without scanning the documents, without being in the risk of scams, because the paper documents are not so easy for digital nomads and to transfer, and they can be sometimes faked. And as well, you can create a fake digital fake dowód osobisty, fake identity card, and without API for the checking if this ID is correct, you cannot actually verify it online. So the private-public key infrastructure like MetaMask or Ethereum is much more suitable for the managing identity than the traditional physical elements.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my last question about the GetLine. Do you have something to add about the project or the ICO?
Right now, I'm suggesting you to go to the rocket.getline.in. We are starting a community of talk there, and sign up for the newsletter to get information. And I think we don't want to create artificial hype around the project. We want to do multiple customer interviews with the early users of the product, because we don't want to create something that people don't want. And so the only way to iterate and do things like lean startup is to talk to customers, create a early version, and iterate. So ICO is actually for the next 100 or 1,000 runs of iteration and improvements. And I believe it's it's how the internet protocols works in Ethereum, that the protocols should be improved, because if they're not improved, they may die. So the optimization is major fifth forks in the world. It's like it's right now the financial world is not optimized, and it's because multiple reasons, but many fintech companies are actually still using the banks for everything, and they are adding additional layers of complexity instead of cutting the complexity by using the superior blockchain technology. So what GetLine will be doing, it will be doing everything that you need from the bank without the bank. Because
that's nice. So now let's move to the superior blockchain technology as a wide industry. During the interview, you mentioned a few times that you made a lot of research about the ICOs and token economy to find a good model for your token. And what I see is that one of the big problems in ICO is that you receive all this money at the beginning, before even you have the product or even some code in some cases, and you receive a lot of money, and you can spend them, and then the next round will be after a few years when you will be able to provide value to the token. So my question is, have you heard about some ICO schema to get like many rounds for ICOs, or you do like small ICO at the beginning, then you deliver the milestone, then you do another ICO, and so on?
Yeah, I think that's it's actually quite a problem, because Vitalik thought about it in the continuous ICO, with a way that if the investor is committing money, and if investor wants to get his money back, he may withdraw the money and actually control the project development that way. I think it's a great idea, and but it will need like 1 year or 2 years to develop, because many people...
It means that I can invest my money in ICO, and when I see no progress, I can say I want my money back?
Yes, that's how it will work. For example, at Shares, there is a Polish project implemented such solution that they are doing constant buyback, and they're allowed to take like 1% of ICO funds per week or so on. Mm-hmm. So if investors are not seeing the progress, they can remove the money without losing much of it. And
that sounds good, because there is the motivation, because you can lose your money, but it is not like 0-1, so you cannot just get all the money at the one day. So the project is still safe, that have money to deliver the job.
Yeah, so people are actually, if the company is doing smaller ICO but is having more tokens in the reserves, it can actually create a secondary sale and third sale and another sale and so on. But actually, the problem is liquidity and market depth, because it's not like if you have tokenized a company or tokenized something, it will not magically create a buy wall and sell wall, and the order book depth. It's thing that you need to work on. The projects, it's very hard to create something that have in the same time monetary sense for investors. It is not a security by for the government, and it have sensible governance model. It's hard to think about any possible solution. And what I'm expecting is that market will mature very quickly, because people will be, for example, disappointed by Tezos, which already lost like 53% of its value, and because some big name ICOs projects will fail, and investors are like playing the game of learning. And if you lose some money on Tezos, and you next time you will not make this mistake again, so the next wave of ICOs will be more mature. And I think it's awesome, because I've never seen such wave of innovation, because like a few years, 2 years ago, nobody was willing to create, for example, peer-to-peer lending in cryptocurrency. And right now there are like 10 companies doing that. If you look for the market for decentralized music, it's no projects at all like a few years ago, and right now 20 projects.
Yeah, plenty of them. Yeah, that's true.
And it may be not great for the investors because if the market is too crowded, then the returns may be reduced. But it's actually great for the customers because as a user of decentralized apps, I've seen that many projects are creating beautiful user experience using decentralized application like Radar Relay that is working on the 0x project. And it's actually a utility is provided for the customers or for the people working in using those protocols, and even if many projects will fail, the open source code will still remain. I think that's the greatest value, because it's not that like the ICOs are wasting money. They're actually increasing the efficiency, because that's how market works. The inefficient companies are going out of market, the inefficient ICOs are going out of market, and so on.
Yeah, that's what we are doing, like the new things, exploring new technology. So we have to make mistakes.
Exactly.
Thanks to funding from ICOs, we have like resources to do that. But if you are the investor, you have to know that you have the risk, and this is the same like in the early stage startups. Maybe 1 of 10 will be successful in the long run.
Yes, and Vinay Gupta from the Hexayurt was talking about there is a qualification for sophisticated investors. If you're high net worth individual with like over millions of dollars in liquid assets, you can invest in some things that non-accredited investors cannot. And it makes sense because if you're proven to be if you're not financially illiterate, if you know how to do finance, then you should do your own due diligence and so on. But for the technology ICOs, you need to have both capital and the technological skills to evaluate the projects. It's not, for example, storage project, and I've read the analysis that it's actually empty project because the technology isn't working, and they have large market cap, but the project may be flawed because it's buggy and they may not have technical qualifications to actually deliver. And without being an open source developer, without actually downloading the code, running the tests, checking the performance, checking claims, you cannot.
Yeah, you can't evaluate the project.
So only people that are technical geeks with the money from the cryptocurrency gains are able to actually do qualified decisions about investing.
Yeah, that's some kind of true, but I don't like this idea that you have this license. If you are rich and you have tech knowledge, then you can have this license and you can invest in tech startups or crypto startups, because in this way you have like no decentralization. You have like decentralization only in a small group of people. If you talk about the investment,
yeah,
and we just make rich people richer.
Yeah,
I don't like this approach.
So what approach may be good? It's something like Neufund is doing. Like you can invest in some kind of indexes of startups, indexes of tokens that are vetted by the knowledgeable people.
Yeah, that's quite good idea. Like we already get it in the stock market for years, so why not use it on cryptos?
Yes, exactly. So I'm actually suggesting to check out the Neufund ICO as well, because it's not an ICO.
I will try to make interview with them So
yeah, I suggest making the interview with the Zoa or Martin, because they're creating the new quality in the blockchain ecosystem, and white paper is quite interesting. And well, I think that's we are living in crazy times, and right now the Bitcoin price is crazy. And
yes, it is. It is.
And I see more and more people seriously writing about stuff like automated luxury communism, or like futurism and space exploration, and uploading your minds into virtual reality and so on. And it's like, I remember 10 times ago, it was all bollocks. It was all in the dreams. And if somebody was
movies, yeah, exactly.
If somebody was talking about such ideas, he was considered to be a cyber freak or geek or like crazy person. Right now, more and more people are taking these ideas seriously, and they have more chance of being implemented, because it's like the space elevator will be built like 10 years after the last person that is laughing about the idea will die. It's like the running joke about it. So I think that it will have the same situation in decentralization, because many people will not switch to the Bitcoin because they are traditionalists. Many people will not switch to Ethereum or decentralized protocol if they are not forced to. They will just die out, I think, probably. But the new generation.
Because if we talk about other technologies, like for example smartphones, and 5 years ago, if you, for example, was using internet for dating, it was weird that you are a geek and you cannot find a match on social trackers, so use internet for this. But now everyone is using internet for dating, so I think it will happen quite quickly, and maybe in the 5-10 years everyone will use cryptos.
Yeah, that's Damodaran did this analysis that there are three distinct scenarios for the Bitcoin. The first is like total world currency. Second is the gold for the millennials, because I've seen that people are not willing to buy gold anymore. The retail sales of the gold are failing. And the third option is some kind of technological black swan and value of Bitcoin crashing. Those three are things are possible, and the current price is a way to think about which of them is more likely to happen. And right now, most people are obviously thinking that the Bitcoin will have a shot of becoming the world currency, as if you have dollars, you can convert it to the Bitcoins before anybody will do this, and the last person to convert dollars to Bitcoins will just have dollars that have zero value in terms of Bitcoin. So it's hyper-Bitcoinization.
Yeah, but the thing is that, to be honest, like almost no one is using Bitcoins for paying for things. So so for me, I think the second one, when you just use Bitcoin like a storage of the value,
yes,
it's for me like the scenario that I can see can be the truth, but we never know how it will change.
You never know. So thank you very much for interview.
If you have like 3 minutes more, I have one more question.
Okay.
So my next question is about the scaling of Ethereum and other blockchains, because it is like a big challenge. And do you think like the sharding that is proposed by Vitalik on the DevCon is a good way, or maybe let's say Polkadot is also a good solution, because then you can have the same asset on the many blockchains. So if even one blockchain cannot scale, you can move this asset on the different ones.
Well, I think that Vitalik is bound to the Ethereum blockchain. He cannot create another project that is, for example, blockchain Ethereum.20 and just tell people, well, your Ethereum is worth 0 because I've created something better. he cannot do this for obvious reasons. But what I'm saying that what Polkadot is doing is there is a very profound realization that the product of blockchain, the whole talk about Bitcoin versus blockchain and where this value, the value is in the consensus, in distributed consensus without trusting third party. And what Polkadot is doing is they're creating a framework for creating this is as generic framework as it could be. So I think that it will be easier to create a thing like Golem or storage solution on top of Polkadot and not implement the Ethereum technology. I think that the Ethereum technology in terms of Ethereum virtual machine is here to stay, that it's already a standard and you have so much Solidity devs and so much the tooling for Ethereum is growing faster than tooling for another things, and Ethereum has viable upgrade mechanism, and if something is starting to go wrong, the Vitalik is as a benevolent dictator, similar to the Guido Rossum in Python.
So it's like decentralized, but there is Vitalik.
Yeah. So it's actually a running joke that the Ethereum network would be much faster and much more secure and much better if it would be like running on the Vitalik computer. It's totally centralized, much faster and much scalable. Give him the best mainframe, and the Vitalik will be signing manually all transactions. And so it's actually funny. But if you think about it, what about if you have some trusted party, you can get some benefits from the blockchain, from the decentralization, and still having proof of stake by trusting, by putting even a little trust in some organizations. And that's I think it's sociological change. And will people be willing to trust, and if there will be trusted organization in the future world, or anybody will be like living in anarcho-capitalistic way of living that trust no one, accept only Bitcoin after 6 confirmations, and anybody who is trying to create fake blogs and food about the Bitcoin blockchain and so on. So I study philosophy as well, so I love to talk about transhumanism and future of money, future of humanity. But I think it's better to sometimes focus on the technology and just provide some value for the customers, for the people. So I'm doing the ICO, and I think the future is bright. And I'm suggesting anybody to go to the getline.in and sign up for the Rocket Chat, and we will talk there about. You can ask questions there, and I will be always answering.
Okay, thank you very much for the interview. I wish you good luck with your product, and I hope maybe in the next year we also have the next interview when you'll be able to give us an update about the progress.
Yeah.
Good luck. Thank you for your time. Have a good weekend. See you.